Hey everyone, hello B-siders to the Living on a B-side podcast. Another guest episode is happening right now, and I'm so excited. I say it every time, but I'm always so pumped when I have another human being to talk to because that means we can squeeze more interesting juice out of music, how they love music, in what way and why, and also how, get a few ideas on how you can use music in your life and your business. So hopefully you can walk away with some great ideas that you can ponder, moodle, or implement if you want to. And in this episode, I'm super excited because this topic, it just blew my mind. So in this episode, we have the wonderful Shawna. Hello, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so excited to have you and talk to you about your take on music, which will be mind-blowing to a lot of them, to a lot of our listeners and viewers, I think. But before we go into that, I thought I'll introduce you quickly, and please add anything that you might find interesting or important, and then we'll go straight into it. Cool. So, Shawna, you said that you are a mum of five. Wow.
Mhm.
To start off
Mhm.
with. Wow. You're a women's health advocate and educator, and you help women relieve menstrual pain and find a balance in their daily lives, which, yeah, sucks. Can totally relate to that. And that's another thing I love. You love animals of all kinds. That's a big tick from me as well. Movie marathons, which I haven't done in a long time, but you obviously, with lockdowns and stuff, probably have. And pictures of the beach, but not necessarily the beach itself. We gotta talk about that quickly.
Yeah.
And you are very passionate about creating a world where women can trust their intuition about their individual health journeys. And that is so important, I think. So important with everything that's going on in the world right now. Yeah, absolutely important. First though, beach. What is it with the beach that you
Okay, so the beach.
love to look up but don't like to be there?
Yeah, it's so peaceful and it's so powerful. And I've always just loved images of it. But then when you get there, like the sand sticks to everything and it's gritty and it scratches. And then you go in the water and there's like seaweed touching you. And then when the water comes up, like all these little creatures float up and then they're like touching you. And I have like this big personal space bubble. And I really like things that are like silky and smooth. So it's pretty much. And then I don't really like being in the sun. I'm pale. I'm naturally very pale. And my mom and sister were always trying to get me to sunbathe. And I was like, I go out there and I get hot and then I get sweaty and I don't like being uncomfortable. So no, I don't sunbathe. And then there's like things in the ocean that are way bigger than me, like way, way bigger. And I'm like, I don't have gills. I have legs and I breathe air and I should be on the land. But I love the beauty and the power of the ocean visually.
Oh, I can relate to a lot of things you're saying. Pale. Sometimes I look like a lobster if I'm not careful. I do respect all the creatures in the ocean. Don't think we
Mhm.
belong there necessarily, or if we do, pay a bit of respect to those creatures. So yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad we cleared that one up. Interesting. Um, Now, anything else about, your business passion, your generally your life passion that, you want to highlight that you believe, might needs to sort of be said or dived into a little bit more?
Yeah, it's just interesting how at this point in my life, I'm 36. I just turned 36. And when I start to look back over all of my interests, this has been like the pinnacle of everything just weaving together. I always loved music and I played instruments growing up. I always loved learning about being a mom, learning how to be a better mom, so I went into studying pregnancy and healthy, comfortable pregnancies and helping other people do that and helping women give birth in a comfortable way and really enjoy their pregnancies and their new babies and their recoveries. And to just bring everything together at this point in my life where I'm like, hey, music actually helps me do all these other things too. It helps me be a better mom and it helps our bodies heal and it helps all of that. And so I just think it's super cool to see that unification happening in my life and in my business where it's like, oh, these were all different parts of me and now they all get to be like the same. I do the same thing in all areas.
Wow, it's lovely. It's lovely and amazing if, that literally comes together, because a lot of people probably want through life struggling to find something they're passionate about to start off with. But for you, it seems like everything's sort of connected and it's just amazing now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Now, music, let's start off generic. You obviously touched on it. You said you've always been passionate about music. You loved, learning about music, obviously instruments and everything else. But do you remember sort of when the first time you've experienced music? Do you remember that far back? And do you remember the feelings you probably had around that?
That's a good question. My mom would play music in the car when she would take us to daycare. So she worked and she would take us to daycare and we'd listen to something on the way to the car in the morning. I just remember how that seemed to reset my day because I wasn't a morning person. And I don't know how old I was, but I remember listening to Cat Stevens, like Morning Has Broken, and it was morning, and just like making that connection and that association as a kid where it's like, oh, we're singing about the morning and it is a beautiful morning. And like, I think I even saw a blackbird. And so I was like, hey, that's just like what's happening in the song. And so I know that I often use music to reset my mood. I use music to reset my home. There was even a period of time when all my kids were teeny, they were like 5 and under, that I set a timer on my phone. It was like turn on music at 4:30 every day. Like, and if I hadn't turned on music, it was like 4:31. And I was like, is it 4:30? Because we're having a meltdown and I forgot to turn on my music. So it was a set time that I could almost even see like, we need this, we need something else to come in and to reset us.
Okay, that now triggers kind of some really, yeah, some thoughts that I'm trying to sort of, um, so you say you use music in your daily life to reset and everything. So can you maybe explain a little bit more how that kind of works for someone who has no idea how to do that? Like, what's the idea behind it and how does it work? And maybe also the third thing is, how can we start to do that ourselves? What's the
Yeah.
starting point?
So my super exciting like passion and discovery that I've really been working out over the last year is that each organ in our body has a frequency. And so different notes connect with that frequency. And so now I actually understand, while I was using it kind of as a band-aid, now I actually can use it more as a remedy and say, okay, my kids are struggling with this, or we're struggling at this time of day. And I know that that means this organ's out of balance. And I can specifically play music that helps balance that organ system. And so when looking at the body and what's going on in the times of day that you're struggling, you can actually start to apply music as a remedy and say, okay, I'm feeling this way. Like if you're struggling with anger, frustration, irritation, it's hard to rein in your temper. That's a liver issue. And the liver and the heart are connected in a healing system. And so they're also connected to like the note F and F major. And so you can play F major, you can play F minor if it's like overactive anger, or just like it's an excess amount in your life, you can actually play F minor and kind of subdue it and release it and move it out of your body. Like, so crazy, so cool.
It's to me that's like mind blowing that you can use certain music notes or certain, frequencies to kind of align you back in. And it sort of makes me wonder then, and I know I'm probably going, I don't know if this is, it's not off topic, but it kind of then makes me wonder, because I'm always interested in like history and how other cultures or other, our ancestors did it. So it makes me wonder sometimes, have we lost that ability to tune in? Because if you look back in history, you feel like there's so much more music connection going on with like tribes and other communities, and so do you think that that's something we've lost, that
I think this
sense?
is such an exciting area, because when you're looking at like the history of music therapy started with a group of people just feeling like, hey, let's go play some instruments for the sick people in the hospital. And then they started to notice that those people were getting healthier faster. They were getting stronger, quicker. They were healing. And they were like, oh, I think there's something to this music thing. And so that was
Mhm.
the birth of music therapy. But what's super cool when you're studying the tones and the frequencies and the organs and the belief systems is that you start to realize, like, in Western cultures, we use more of like the piano scales, C through G through, just C through B, just the kind of it's standard to me. I'm Western, but when you're looking at like Eastern cultures and the instruments they use and the scales that they use, and they're different. And each of those scales promotes a different kind of mental belief system, emotional system. And so when you look at those scales and you look at how their culture has developed, it actually is connected. So, like, if you're playing a bagpipe, for instance, you're elevating a certain part of the body, and you're promoting that kind of energy in your culture. Whereas if you're playing like strings, or you're playing flutes, or you're playing drums, you're bringing those elements in a little bit stronger. So, like in Africa, you have a lot of the drums, and it's also a very tribal connection. And it also stimulates a lot of that tribal energy, the drum does. And it's also an area that helps us feel grounded and helps us feel kind of centered in what we're doing. But if we do it too much, then we become too tribal, and then you start to get the wars between the tribes. So it's really, really fascinating to study it culturally and say, oh my gosh, like, are we inundating ourselves? Are we, just through the music that we like listening to, that we've inherited that desire to listen to, we're also proliferating these cultures that we live in?
Wow. I don't know what to say. I'm just like, my brain's just gone like in kind of a brain freeze. This I find so fascinating, because I don't know how to put this, but so in a deep part of me, it makes complete sense.
Doesn't it? And that's what I love.
It's
I'm like, oh
just,
my gosh, it's so intuitive.
it's just like, yeah, it makes sense, and so, and then obviously your mind, I don't know, yours, maybe we're similar in that, but then my mind goes to, okay, so what situations have we got on this planet, and what part has music played into it, and how could we kind of balance this out now? Do we have to like have a plane playing, I don't know, somewhat, over certain countries to just calm them down a bit or something?
It's like, you need a little bit of the pentatonic, and you need a little bit of
Yeah, you need a bit more
yeah, and it
classical, and then you need a bit more sort of Asian type of, and you need a bit more, whatever there is. So,
yeah, and I love like the beauty of, a couple of years ago in college, I was studying marketing, and there's a book that says the world is flat. And it means, from a global economy standpoint, we have now reached that point where you can kind of do pretty much anything, and it can go anywhere. And I love that that's what we're starting to see, is this unity, this call for unity. And we are sharing our culture, we are sharing our music. And so people are starting to listen to these other areas. And it also creates kind of an empathy within us, because when we hear that, we understand a little bit more, and it
Mm.
opens up our mind to feel what they're feeling and to see that. And I just think it's really beautiful.
I love what you said, and I was just thinking back to one of my other guests I had on, Kim, because she's using music to teach languages, especially Spanish. And that to me is exactly what kind of she hopes to achieve and is working on achieving cultural connection. Now, you
Yeah.
saying something on the same lines, it just shows me there's this thin red line emerging slowly
Yeah.
where, and that again, that for me is a mind blow moment, because I think it's like it's so subtle and people don't realize it, but it's happening, you know?
It is.
Um, I guess we can't really change too much what's happening in the greater world at the moment. But how can we start helping to change us and then obviously our surroundings, just to sort of cause this little bit of drop in the ocean? How can we use music in that sense to make us healthier, happier, and help other people do the same? So have you got any sort of suggestions or ideas how we can start,
Yeah.
even if we have no idea how to do it? Because you obviously know all the notes in the bodies do this, you know, so that connection.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't. We sort of,
Obviously, like mind connections are really, like, I'm bringing a lot of puzzle pieces together, but I find the easiest place for people to start is to say, okay, what's that song that's kind of on rerun in your mind? You know, it just pops up. Or you can think about a time in your life where you just had that like almost theme song, like you couldn't get it out of your head. Because when we're singing in our mind, it's actually, it can create the same effect, because in our mind we're creating that tune. And so when I teach music classes to kids, we actually, it's called audiation, where you sing it and then you leave part of the song out and you mouth it, and they're singing it in their minds, and it helps them then sing it back in tune later. So there's a really powerful connection there. So if it's running through your mind, I want you to like pull that song out, look it up, and say, what key is this song written in? And then that can start to give you a clue into, okay, you're trying to balance your body with that key. Is it a major? Is it a minor? If it's a major, you're trying to activate, you're trying to stimulate that part of your body. If it's a minor, you're trying to sedate, you're trying to subdue. It's probably overactive, overinflamed. And what I find are the most powerful songs, like the ones where the lyrics and the music come together and they are just super powered, are when the lyrics actually are affirmations or they're connected to the same content. So, for instance, grief is held in the heart, the lungs, the chest, right? And so when we have heartache or grief, a lot of times those are written in F major, or when we're healing grief, we think or we sing songs that are written in F major. So it's just kind of interesting how some of those things will come together. And the easiest way to remember is that your body is like the piano keys. So you can lay the body down on the piano, and the base of the spine, I'd say the spine is like the piano keys to keep it even, but the base of the spine is C and the top of the head is B. And so where your body lies on those, on that keyboard, those are the organs that you're stimulating with those keys.
wow, that's so interesting. I'm trying to imagine that in my mind now.
Yeah, I'm like, I should probably create a visual for this.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea actually,
Yeah.
because I'm sort of thinking for obviously people who might not have such a good like music theory education, it can be a little bit difficult to imagine that. So yeah, but just go like on the internet and just, you know, look it up and then put your body on the piano
Yes,
and
exactly.
just
I'm like,
do
Google
that.
has it all. Yeah.
And obviously, does that then explain if we feel grief or sadness? that kind of then, does that explain why it appears the songs are rather sad or more emotional? Is that because it's written in that particular music note and that then activates certain body parts of ours to feel that
Yeah,
way?
yeah, totally.
Ah,
Totally. So
oh
that's
my
why
God.
like some of those songs really bring up a lot of emotion, especially like if I amazingly don't have grief and I listen to a song that's written in those sad tones, I might feel a little bit saddened. But if I have any kind of grief stored within me and I listen to one of those songs, it's going to reactivate that last grieving memory or my history of grief, to bring it up, to bring it out, to balance it out. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be in a painful way. Like you can use it to help you release that from your body, but you can also use it to just tune your body so you don't have to go and feel the sorrow, the sadness. Like it doesn't have to be reliving depression, reliving that. You can balance the body with music and have it be faster and easier than the therapy and years of like digging through all the emotions. So when you're balancing the right area of the body, it doesn't have to be a long, hard, draining process.
Wow. Yeah, my brain's going in like different directions thinking about all these things, and I could probably sit here for another 2 hours talk to you about all these things, but just knowing that we can start to look at our bodies and maybe even our moods and then relate that to songs and then figure out where in our body we actually feel it and what might need attention. I think that in itself is so super helpful, because instead of going to the doctor and asking for pills, you might be able to help you just feel a bit better through listening to your body
Yeah,
and being able to maybe even just a little bit balance it out. I mean, obviously we've got to say this is not medical advice. I just want to highlight
right,
that.
exactly,
So
exactly.
don't go out and think this is like a cure for everything, but I do feel it can be a support to
Absolutely.
help, you know.
Yeah. And depending on what's, within my program, we kind of address that there are different healing modalities and some people resonate with one more than another.
Mm,
So somebody's body might really just be craving the sound, that frequency, whereas another person's really needs that dialed in medication to just elevate this small level of something. And that's going to be their fastest way to balance.
yeah.
But I find that you can really use music very powerfully and specifically to help
Mm,
healing, and whatever you are working on healing, you can incorporate music into that.
yeah. Awesome. And I do think, like you said, we should really tune in more and figure it out, because so much stuff, so much pain and suffering could probably relieved a little by just being more aware of what's going on in here before we then go and take the chemicals, or have it in
Yeah,
support with, to hopefully help more. So
yeah. And that's a big part of like when we're going into a healing with it, understanding, because you can sometimes be chasing the symptom, and the symptom is sometimes a symptom of a symptom. And so whenever you're like trying to fix the one thing, the thing on the surface, you're like, oh, I just want to get rid of bloating, for instance. And what you're doing, like you're taking the pills or you're taking antibiotics or whatever it is, but it's not fixing the bloating. You know that bloating's a symptom of a symptom. There's something else. And that's where the music is really powerful, because I find that people will sing out of tune the areas of their body that are out of tune. So if you try to sing the scale and part of that doesn't resonate, like you can actually, there are apps on your phone, you can just like pull it up and it's a tuning app and you can try to sing the scale and it'll show you if you're flat or sharp, and you'll know if you're depleted or if you have an excess or if you're in balance in that area. And so people who are like, oh, I can't sing, I'm like, oh, we have so much work we can do because we just need to balance this part of your body.
Oh my God. I'm just going, I can't. It's just, yeah.
Our bodies are
I'm just,
so cool.
it's just so amazing. So amazing. I don't know what else to say. So yeah. There'll be a microphone. I mean, I can't use mine at the moment. I can't drop it, but there you go.
Yeah.
I bet you could talk for a very long time about this and how people can start using it, but I think you gave some really good starting points, what to sort of recognize and maybe listen out for. And I'm sure that if someone really has some questions, they can always get in touch with you and obviously ask.
Yeah.
But then if it's a bit more, then you have ways to help them, which I
Mhm.
will obviously leave the information there for anyone that is really interested so they can get in touch with you and discuss it, which I think you definitely should do because Shawna, I mean, just hearing it now, the knowledge is amazing. So you would be silly not to do it. But now I'd love to know a bit more from you. Have you got a favorite song? And if yes,
Yeah.
which one is it? And also the why? I wanna know.
Yeah. I have a couple favorites, but I think the one that I shared with you was I Can Do All Things. And for me, like lyrics are so powerful, but like I said, I really love those songs where the lyrics and the tone come together to balance a certain part of your body. And as I've moved forward in this phase of my life, of hey, all the pieces came together, and now I also know how to share this with the world and get this out there a little bit more. I really have been bolstered up by that song and those lyrics and that concept of I can do all things, everything's possible. I don't have to know the way, I just know it's going to unfold as I move down that path. And I really try to harness that. And I share that because a big part of my women's health program is that a lot of people, a lot of women struggling with reproductive issues, menstrual cramps, things like that, they also have big dreams that they're on some level afraid to realize, or big ambitions that they're on some level trying to just maybe not fully acknowledge. And so as we go through the healing process, a lot of times those come out, and I love to hear people's big dreams and to just share like everything's possible. Here's the way, and to be living that on my own and to know I can do my big dreams too.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's very inspirational too. And these are the songs that I love that have good music and the lyrics match. They that mean something. You can grab them if you need to. And your one is really beautiful. I did listen to it. I've not heard it before, but it's really, really beautiful. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I agree. We can have more than we think.
Yeah.
Just have to have a bit of faith, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that was one of your songs. And I know you've mentioned another one, which, yeah, you can you share that one with us as well? That other song that you've mentioned, do you remember
Yeah.
it?
Can you remind me? I feel like
That's okay. Sometimes it's hard to remember what you put down, and then you have the chat a
yeah.
few days later or so. You wrote "Rescue" by Lauren.
Oh,
Is it
rescue.
Daigle? Did I pronounce it right? Is it?
Yeah.
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 Okay. Cool. Nice.
I love that song. So she sings Rescue, but the first time I heard it was when it was part of a campaign by Operation Underground Railroad that raises awareness against human trafficking. And so when I saw her video in conjunction with their campaign and, the images of kids and being rescued, and I just really connect with that because I feel really deeply for people who are imprisoned in bondage, in slavery, and the human trafficking population, especially. And my whole life, I've just kind of thought, what can I do? Like, what can I do for them? What can I do for that person? And it feels so helpless when you're like just a mom of five, in this little town. But when I started to really look at what I was trying to do in the world and why I connect really strongly with this population, I realized that that is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help women find freedom, freedom inside their body, freedom from pain. And I might not be rescuing that child from abuse and that, but I can be rescuing women from that physical pain, the abuse of being in a body that's out of tune, out of alignment. And one of those is going to be involved in helping those kids. Like I know that my path helps. So whatever I can do, whatever healing, whatever knowledge, whatever light I can bring to the people I'm connected to, at least one of those people is going to be saving those kids, whether they're adopting them or they're actually rescuing them or they're part of the team that makes it happen. So I know that I'm playing my part, but I also love that it is freeing people as well.
I don't know what to say to that. It's beautiful. Yeah, I love the song too. And I always love that I get educated by everyone that I have on, because so many songs I haven't heard about, and then I listen to them and watch the videos and I'll go, wow, how can I have not heard that song before?
Yeah.
So, and that one's, I mean, yeah, beautiful song, absolutely beautiful. And I mean, what you're trying to achieve through what you're doing and the way you look at it is, yeah, that just shows that we all can do more than we think. Even if it's not a direct impact, it's an indirect one. And that's so important, I think. Beautiful. Love it. Yes. Look, thank you so much for coming on. As I said several times during our chat, I think we could have talked about this topic for much longer than we have today, but hopefully the viewers and listeners got a really good starting point out of what you said, and they know that there's other options that they probably have in their CD cabinet or on their Spotify list to help them start tuning in a bit more to themselves and realize what's going on in here. And if they're stuck, then please get in touch with Shawna, because she can definitely help you fine tune. I love all these sort of music words that are coming with what you do.
I know, right?
It's just amazing.
Perfect.
I'm sort of giggling like a little child here inside my head going, oh, this is superb. Yeah, and I'll put all your contact details and obviously all your links in the description to this episode. So please get in touch with Shawna. She also has an 8-week program, I believe, that to help. So talk to Shawna about that as well if you feel that you're drawn to that. And otherwise, do you want to say anything else? I mean, I've already asked a question about the song that would define you and your business, and you provided 2 beautiful songs that are wonderful and I think describe you very well. Is there anything else that you kind of want to, before you go,
No, I
let
just
people
really
know?
appreciate being here and to start sharing this message of how amazing our bodies are and what we can do to help them. So thank you for being that platform that I can start putting that message out on.
Well, thank you so much for so that we found each other and that I was able to share your message, because I think it's super important. Super important. The power of music, it goes deeper than us normal people probably think. We're missing out on a lot, and that's why I'm glad people like you are actually stepping up now. So
Yeah. Oh, and I
thank you
just
for
have to
that.
say, because I loved this, living on the B side, and B is like the top, the crown, the opening our mind to all possibilities and harmonizing our thoughts with everything, just kind of that universal truth, universal love. And so I love that it's living on the B side, because it's really like it's unity is what B
Oh
helps
my
us
God.
foster.
I had no
Right?
idea. Wow, thank you for enlightening me in that one. Wow, I had no idea. Yeah, looks like things are coming together at my end too.
So I
Wow.
just love that, like what your name says about your mission subconsciously.
Isn't that funny? Oh my God, I'm so gonna have to ponder about that one now. Thank you so much. That's amazing. I can't believe you not told me that until now.
I know it. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, oh, I should tell her the name of her
Yeah, that
podcast is
is
powerful.
that is so amazing. Wow. It explains a lot of things at my end now. So thank you.
Yay. You're welcome.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on again. And as I said to the viewers and listeners of this episode, please get in touch. You can get in touch with Shawna. You can get in touch with me if you have any questions about anything about this podcast or living on the B-side. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in, for watching, for listening, and I shall speak to you again in my next episode from on this Living on the B-side podcast. Until then, thanks for tuning in and keep on dancing and keep on rocking, as I always say. Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.